Judson Laipply has been inspiring and entertaining audiences for over 20 years. His video, The Evolution of Dance, was the first viral sensation on YouTube and today has over 300 million views. In part 1, Judson told us about the struggle bus theory. Here in part 2, he answers some questions about how we can find opportunities in our own lives, even in the midst of struggle.
And then now people are starting to realize there are opportunities. We have extra time. We can do as you suggested and work on projects and try to develop new skills and things like that. I wonder if you could share a little bit on how you've seen this play out in your own life. I think kids watching this, often with YouTube stars and celebrities, they think, well, they have everything. It's easy for them. They've never had to struggle. So can you talk a little bit about some of the struggles that you've experienced, especially when you were younger, that led you to the success that you've had at this point in your life?
Yeah, and I'm very fortunate that I'm in the position that I have. If this type of event would have happened when I was first speaking, I'm not sure doing this for a living, but in my first 5 years, first 3 to 5 years, I wasn't making what you would consider to be a lot of money. And I think that's the hardest part is in life, we have so many things available to us instantaneously, and we want things to be quick. We want things to be instant, but the real world moves pretty slow. Most of the things move, you can order anything on Amazon, you can get it instantaneously, but the real world, as far as individual development and skill development and competency development, is slow. But the one thing that we've got is our level of hustle, so to say. And when your competency is not as high as maybe some of the other people around you, when you're not as quick to understand things, a lot of times you have to work a lot harder. Now, right now, there are jobs available. So let's say you're a student, let's say you schoolwork is fine and you're working on those things and you're trying to figure out what to do with the rest of your time. You have options. You can spend your time playing video games and sitting in front of Netflix. And I'm not saying that's a terrible thing to do for a little bit of the day, but somewhere along there, you probably should be figuring out something that's either going to enhance you financially, because finances, whether we want to admit it or not, is important. We like to say money is not important, but money brings security. And security is what we're really seeking. Money is a tool. You can use it for good. You can use it for bad. You can use it to build things. You can use it to buy things. You can use it to hurt things. I mean, it's just a tool. But money is usually what we trade our time for. And so if you have the time, which we all do now, figuring out ways to trade that time for money in some aspect is probably going to benefit you in the long run if you're a student. I spent the first 3 years of my speaking career, the first 2 years of my speaking career working another job. I was working in a painting company because I used to paint houses when I was younger with my father. He was a school teacher and painted houses in the summer. So I had a skill set. And I found a company, a person I knew who ran this. And I said, hey, will you let me work whenever I'm not on the road? And they were like, who would show up on time when they were supposed to, and, was responsible to do that. So the first 2 years, I didn't make any money speaking because I spent most of it on marketing and all those things, but I made enough money to live on by painting houses in the intern. So if a student is looking to become a YouTube star, you're not going to become a YouTube star overnight. If you want to be a marketing influencer on Instagram, it's not going to happen overnight. There's going to be a long amount of struggle. But that continuous work and that continuous hustle into that area is what's going to eventually lead to that competency. And that's how you're going to get ahead of the rest of the pack.
Very cool. So let's go back in time 20 years before Evolution of Dance became this viral sensation. You had already been speaking, you'd been presenting, you had obviously done the Evolution of Dance many times before it went up. And this was back in the early days of YouTube, like the early days of YouTube. So viral then is very different from viral now. You go viral overnight today, but a lot of people didn't even know about YouTube when you're started to generate traffic and hits. What was it that you did prior to launching this video that made it so it could be a viral sensation? Because obviously there was a lot of work, a lot of time that went into it. When you talk about it doesn't happen overnight. Can you talk a little bit about what that journey was like for you?
Sure. The aspect of going viral is almost always a byproduct. Now, I know a lot of people try to go viral today, but the truth is you can't really put your thumb on exactly what will or won't go viral. And so for me, I came up with this idea for this dance. And for those of you that don't know what we're talking about, it's a thing called the evolution of dance. At the time, it was a 6-minute dance routine that I did at the end of my shows because it's high energy, it's really entertaining, to illustrate the idea that things are always changing, that we live in a world that never stops moving. And sometimes we get so wrapped up in whether those changes are good or bad, and we want to argue about how things used to be, but it doesn't matter. Things are always going to change, and it can all be good. It can all be different and all just that. And so I wanted to do something to end my shows, came up with this idea for this dance in early 2000 and late 2000, early 2001 was the first time I ever performed it. And when the first time I performed it, it was not very polished. I didn't really learn the dances. I memorized, the music was only 2.5 minutes, 12 songs. I learned the music. I went out and I just kind of did it. And it went over really well. The crowd reaction was great. And I was like, oh yeah, I got something here. And so I spent the next really 4 years tweaking it, adding stuff, subtracting stuff from it, playing with the mix, playing with the audiences and seeing what worked, getting audience feedback. And over time, I crafted it into a 6-minute finale. And then actually it was 14 years ago. Today is April 8th. It was 14 years ago on April 6th that I actually uploaded the video to YouTube. And I uploaded it at the time because YouTube had the best user interface, and it spit out an embedding code that you could copy and paste into a MySpace profile. So this is pre-Facebook, this is pre all that stuff. And I wanted to share the video with some people who had asked me if I would put it on my MySpace because they wanted to do it for a talent show. So viral videos didn't exist. I didn't expect it to go viral. But when you look back at kind of all that happened, was I was working on a piece of content. I was working on a bit, on a, some people call them an element within the theatrical world. I was working on this thing, and I spent 5 years really perfecting it and going through all the struggles and trying something. And if it didn't work, and then, being okay with it not working or putting a song in there and having no reaction from the audience and being like, okay, we'll take that song out. And so I spent a long time working on it, and then just got lucky that I put it up right at the right time. YouTube was just starting to infiltrate kind of everyday conversation. And so my video and YouTube both started kind of getting a lot of notice at the same time. And it came like this nice little symbiotic. As my video grew, so did YouTube. And so when people would go to YouTube to see what was on this thing called YouTube, they'd find my video and vice versa. And so it was a real nice, really, it's been going for 14 years and we're still talking about it. So,
Yeah.
In internet life, that's like 100 years.
I remember back to the time when that came out, and I think I first saw it not on YouTube. I think it was one of those other streaming services like Napster or something like that. And that was one of the first ones I remember seeing, oh, this is showing up everywhere. And so that's cool. Now, I need to make a quick point before I get into the next question. I'm a school teacher, and 5-10 years ago, when you ask kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? The answer was, I don't know. That was the number one answer. Now that's the number two answer. The number one answer now, of course, is I want to be a YouTube star. And you made an awesome point here. You worked on it for about 4 years, and you put it out there and got feedback on it. So a lot of these kids who are trying to work on YouTube, and right now is the time to work on that video editing and things like that. It's not just doing videos, but it's getting feedback and sharing it with others and working through the process. And that's a long haul. I love that it took you so long, because most kids don't realize, you don't just become famous overnight. Even Justin Bieber, who was an overnight sensation, was doing it for years before he had that success. So that's an awesome thing to think about. As we look at kids that are, in high school, elementary schools today, and they're growing up in this uncertain world. I mean, right now it's crazy, but even without the COVID-19, our world is continuing to change and evolve. What kind of advice would you give them on how to take care of their own, when there's so much uncertainty in the world? How can they move forward not knowing what to expect with the future?
Well, and I think it's a great question. the older you get, the more everyone always says the older you get, the more, uncertainty has always existed.
Mm-hmm.
Uncertainty will continue to exist because we can count on certain things in life. But the truth of the matter is, we never know exactly what's going to happen. In the world of finances, you always hear this phrase, past results are not indicative of future performance. And that's pretty much exactly what life is. What you think has happened already isn't a guarantee for what's going to happen later on. So dealing with uncertainty is different than, I think, learning to embrace uncertainty or just surrendering to that realization that things are always going to have a little bit of uncertainty to it. So one of the things that I know helped me a lot when I was younger was journaling. And it was in the journaling was kind of taking the time to talk about my expectations just for myself. I never shared it with anybody else, and I look back and I laugh because a lot of it revolved around relationships at the time. Oh, I have a crush on this person, or, oh, I like this person. And, a week or two later, I was like, oh, I talked to him and I don't really like that person anymore, or like that, or, those types of things. But what I think it does is it shows you the pattern of life, and so you go and you write about what you're grateful for, you write about what you're expecting, you're writing about what you're wantful for, wishful for, and then you write about those results and how you feel about those. And over time, it helps you start to craft this. There's this great word I love that's called perspicacity, which is basically your perception of the world around you, or kind of that attitude and that just disposition of, yes, there are things that I want in life, and I'm going to work as hard as I possibly can, doing the things that I need to do in order to achieve those things. Mm-hmm. But I have to accept the fact that sometimes things might get in the way of that, or somebody might even actually take that opportunity away. I use this story. So I played baseball when I was in college, all through high school, went to a small Division III school, played baseball. I was not a really strong, physically speaking, in high school because nobody lifted in the early 90s for baseball. It just wasn't done. Then I went to college and I started lifting and I started getting really strong. And I started getting stronger. So through my entire baseball career, I never hit an over the fence home run all the way up to my senior year of college. So I was all excited. I get to my senior year, my first at bat, my senior year of college, I hit a home run. All excited. Blah, blah, blah. Fast forward to the rest of that season, to the last game. So we're playing our rivals from like 20 miles away who are almost always better than us. I started off my season with a home run. We're down by 2 runs in the bottom of the 9th. 2 people get on base in front of me. First guy hits a double. Next guy first guy hits a single. Next guy hits a double. So there's runners on second and third, and I'm coming to bat with nobody out. And all I'm thinking in my mind is I'm going to hit a home run. I'm going to start my season with a home run, and I'm going to end my entire college career with a home run. And I'm all excited. I'm getting up there. I mean, I could see it all in my head. And they intentionally walked me. So they didn't even pitch to me. They loaded the bases. So if you know baseball, they loaded the bases because it's statistically better, blah, blah, blah. And all I can remember thinking was like, no. Now, fortunately, 2 of my best friends were up right behind me. So they both got hits. We won the game. It was all good. But I remember before that, I was convinced that I was going to hit a home run. Like I was sure of it. Like I'm going to hit a home run to start my season and to end my baseball playing career forever. I'm going to hit and they took that chance away from me. They didn't even allow me, no matter how much preparation I had done, no matter how much time I had spent getting to that point. And that's just what happens sometimes in life. And yeah, it sucks. Now that's a unique situation because I never had another at bat in college baseball again. But most of the times in life, when something like that gets taken away from us or an opportunity like that is blocked, there are ways to get around it. There are ways to reset it. There are ways to continue to move forward to go after those things that you want.
Awesome. So last question here. With us all being stuck inside and people looking for opportunities and things to do, one of the cool things that you did recently was you uploaded a new video on how to do the evolution of dance, and you walk step by step kind of through it, which is an awesome thing, especially for kids right now. They're in their basement, and I do this with my kids. I have 4 kids at home, and we take a dance break every day, actually around this time. So they'll be coming down soon, and we'll dance for a few minutes, and then we'll finish our homework and work on other things. I don't think that you had previously posted a how-to video. Why did you decide to do it this time?
I had avoided doing it for the longest time because there was really no reason to it. So backing up just a tiny bit, the reason I even put the dance on my MySpace page is because I had a person ask me to teach about 800 high school students some of the evolution of dance. They were getting rid of their traditional dance at this regional leadership conference, and they still wanted something where they could dance and have high energy and all that stuff. So I created a 4-minute version of the dance that I broke down and taught, and it went great, and it's a lot of fun. And I usually do it once or twice a year, maybe every other year with student and youth groups, because people love to get that energy out. And I never really had a reason to do that and put it up on YouTube because it didn't make a lot of sense at the time, just because I was like, yeah, maybe some people want to do it, but there was never the situation where people were sitting around looking for things to do from a physical standpoint. And so when this all happened, and I was talking to a lot of my friends who have kids, and I see videos of people doing it, and I'm a big fan of physical fitness. I work out pretty much 5 to 6 times a week, and seeing that I know a lot of people would not be doing physical stuff because they were stuck inside or they didn't know what to do, I thought that would be a great opportunity to put that up, because it is a workout.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely a workout if you do the whole, because what's funny is kids love to dance. Kids have always loved to dance, but somehow as we get older, we become more fearful of the judgment that we'll get for being a bad dancer, or worried that people are looking at us because we're not. But if you just go watch kids, 99% of them are terrible dancers, but they don't care. They're just having fun because they're kids and they're not worried about that. So I thought if I gave everybody a structured dance, it might be fun. Could give people, parents can put kids in front of it for an hour and they can go away for a little bit and come back and just keep checking in on them. So it was just kind of the perfect time. And honestly, I had more time because of this as well.
Right.
I had thought about it in the past, but I'm always usually coming and going pretty much nonstop. And so when this opportunity came up, I was like, let's do it. Let's run through. And it was funny because it took me about 3 days to do it. I thought I would have no problem doing it, but I kept messing up. The music kept messing up.
Right.
So.
Awesome. Well, thank you for doing that. It does give us something to do at home with our kids, and I'm excited to have my kids learn, because we'll do like Just Dance on the Wii or something like that, and so they're learning some of these older dance moves. But with the evolution of dance, now they get to see the full spectrum, and so I'm really excited to work with them on that. What an awesome resource you've made. Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate your message of change and looking for opportunities, especially at this time. If people would like to have you come speak to them, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
So my website is just my name, judsonlaipply.com. If you can't remember that, you can always look up Evolution of Dance speaker or Evolution of Dance something or other, and usually you can find me pretty easily. And then all the contact information's on there.
Perfect. We'll link to that in the description. Thank you once again. It's been a pleasure having you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, and have a good one, everybody.